What's happening around the world and what's happening here at home? A very good evening to you and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Parliamentarian Vijitha Herath reveals a scam in importing crude oil to the country. Subject Minister Kanchana challenges Parliamentarian Vijitha Herath to lodge a complaint.
මෙතන බරපතල ගේම් එකක් ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. ඒකේ ඇඩ්‍රස් එක හරි පැහැදිලිව තියෙනවා. මම අභියෝග කරනවා හෙට දවසේ පුළුවන් නම් ඔබතුමා පැමිණිල්ලක් දාන්න.
Minister of Justice Vijay Dasa Rajapaksa's revelation on the events that unfolded on the 9th of May last year.
ඒ ලයිස්තුවේ හිටියේ මුලින්ම හිටියේ සජබේ මන්ත්‍රීතුමන්ලාගේ සහ දේශපාලන නායකින්ගේ ගෙවල්.
මම විශ්වාස කරනවා ඒක තුමා පෞද්ගලිකව කියන දෙයක් නෙමෙයි යම්කිසි බුද්ධි තොරතුරක් මත තමයි කියන්නේ කියලා.
State suppression over protests continue. Photojournalist Eranga Jayawardena nominated for the Pulitzer Prize. Sri Lanka to delay debate on central bank bill. Adverse weather reported from many parts of the island. Fishing communities advised not to venture into the Bay of Bengal. Pakistan former Premier Imran Khan arrested.
A heated situation arose in Parliament today following an allegation made by Parliamentarian Vijitha Herath on allowing company to import crude oil into the company without proper cabinet approval. However, Subject Minister Kanchana Vijayasekara rejected all allegations levelled by the parliamentarian.
කැබිනට් අනුමැතිය ලැබුණේ ටෙන්ඩර් එකෙන් සුදුසුකම් ලැබුවේ Coral Energy සමාගම.
A cabinet approved tender was given to a company called Coral Energy. But on the 25th, a company called Fontos Trading DMCC, which is registered as a jewelry shop in UAE, sent it to Sri Lanka. This company had also applied for the tender previously. How come this company imported these stocks of oil without prior cabinet approval or a tender? This is a serious game being played here. Here the address is very clear. Their address is Jewelry and Gem Packs 3, Dubai, DMCC Business Centre, level number 1, unit number 4089. They have supplied crude oil for the past 4 months. This has completely taken place in an illegal way. How did we buy oil from this company? What right does the CPC have to do that? In case if they demand us to pay for these oil stocks, how can we pay when the whole transaction is illegal?
ගත්තේ CPC එකට මොකද තියෙන අයිතිය? දැන් අපිට රටක් විදියට කිව්වොත් තෙල් වලට සල්ලි ගෙවන්න කියලා මේක සම්පූර්ණ නීති විරෝධී ගනුදෙනුවක්.
මේ වෙනකන් අපි කිසිම
We didn't buy any stock of oil from any company by violating the tender. We have not made any payments for any such company. We have not done any transactions with any companies which you mentioned just now. We have only paid the Coral company. They had some demands and we forwarded those demands to the Attorney General. The Attorney General has given some recommendations concerning those demands. We have forwarded those recommendations to the company. There is no way we can pay a separate company. If you go and check with the central bank now, you will see how we have made those transactions from an account in the central bank to the Coral company. I challenge you to show whether we have paid any amount to any other company.
කරන්න කියලා මුදල් දාලා තියනවද කියලා වෙන සමාගමකට.
මේ තියෙන්නේ කැබිනට් පත්‍රිකා. මේ තියෙන්නේ නීතිපතිතුමාගේ උපදේශය. මේ තියෙන්නේ ප්‍රසම්පාදන කමිටුවේ ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කිරීම.
මේක තමයි පාර්ලිමේන්තුව පාවිච්චි කරන ජනතා විමුක්ති පෙරමුණේ බොරුව.
මම කැබිනට් පත්‍රිකාව සභාගත.
I will table this cabinet paper. Please include this in the Hansard. Then you have the Attorney General's recommendation letter dated 26th of March.
මාර්තු මාසේ 26 වෙනිදා
මම නැවත වතාවක් කියනවා කැබිනට් අනුමැතියක් ලබා දීලත් නැහැ.
I am repeating myself here. There was no cabinet approval given to this. He is holding on to a cabinet paper which was withdrawn from the cabinet. There is no legitimacy in this document. I challenge you to lodge a complaint on this transaction and to show proof that we transferred this money to another bank account and not to the one on the tender.
ගිණුමට නෙවෙයි වෙනත් ගිණුමකට ඔබතුමා කියපේට දාලා තියෙන කියලා. ඔබතුමාගේ බොරුව හැමදාම සමාජගත කරන්න උත්සාහ කරනවා.
නීති විරෝධී නම් මේ කැබිනට් පත්‍රිකාව නීති විරෝධී කැබිනට්.
He is claiming that there is no legitimacy in this cabinet paper. But then it was him who tabled this cabinet paper and not me. The cabinet must have rejected this proposal. But then they presented this cabinet paper with the aim of legalizing this transaction. The procurement committee had clearly told that this cannot be allowed. We cannot allow these men to play with the taxpayers' money. You cannot allow any transaction to take place superseding the cabinet approval and the tender approval. We cannot allow them to pay to this company under the name Fontos Jewelry. That is wrong.
The procurement committee approved to pay these amounts to another bank account of the same company. Yes, we drafted a cabinet paper concerning this, but we never presented it to the cabinet because the company agreed to accept these payments to the same account. We first must audit these parliamentarians' accounts. They are extorting every businessman in the country. JVP is extorting the business community in this country by generating fear. Even today they are doing it. They have another guy called Vasantha Samarasinghe. They are sending him to collect the ransom. When they reveal the company names here, he goes and collect the payments. You cannot throw a May Day rally without that.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you for your clarification.
The tender approval was given to the Coral Energy Company, but the oil stock was unloaded by the Fontos Trading Company. We don't have any agreement with the Fontos Trading Company.
Cannot make this a debate. Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, the discussion arose in Parliament today regarding the attack on an Omani national who was a factory owner in Katana. After beating up this Oman national today, this investor has arranged to take their investment completely and leave.
We express our strong displeasure. Enforce the law properly in this regard. Politicians are involved in this.
This finger is pointed at Indika Anuruddha, a state minister, at a time when investors are needed the most. They are leaving this country. Is this the way state ministers act? We ask that the president remove them. This complaint was investigated by the Badalgama police. Tositha Nayanapriya, who is the brother of the state minister Indika, had called the number 777-53-1285 and threatened those who protested yesterday.
I
will take up a point of parliamentary privilege for this tomorrow, but he is speaking without knowing facts. The Criminal Investigation Department is conducting an investigation regarding illicit alcohol which was caught inside his house. He couldn't take care of his own house. I never went into any government. It is as a result of them that Gotabaya also had to leave. Therefore, if what happened to Gotabaya must not happen to Ranil Wickremesinghe, President Ranil Wickremesinghe should immediately remove such crooks from the government. If state ministerships are given to these crooks, what happened to Gotabaya will happen to Ranil as well. Is Dewlapidiya a separate state? So far, all the necessary security has been given and the Criminal Investigation Department has been handed over to them. This is an unfortunate incident. It's not one person or an MP. This is a big incident. It is being investigated. This morning, the owner of the factory, Oman National Khalfan Al Obeidani, met with the Minister of Public Security, Tiran Alas. The minister promised to provide the maximum possible security for the running of the factory and has also requested the owner of the factory to resume the activities that were halted.
Leader of the opposition, Sajid Premadasa, says the president has agreed to postpone tabling the central bank bill in parliament. Meanwhile, MPs of the Uttara Lanka Sabagaya requested the Prime Minister to prepare a new draft bill instead of the current bill.
This morning, I spoke to the President over the phone and I made it clear to him that the Central Bank Act should be brought after further discussions are undertaken regarding it. I made a request that we postpone the discussion of this bill and have a thorough parliamentary debate on this. He told me that he agrees with me and asked me to announce this in Parliament today as well. A letter was given to the Prime Minister and that includes a different proposal. It says that they propose an additional bill which includes all amendments that were noted by the Supreme Court. It would be difficult to take the amendments separately, to combine them and to debate them. This morning, the Committee on Public Finance will convene and the Central Bank Governor will also join them. MPs can join this discussion to talk about this bill as well.
A media briefing was organized by the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners in Colombo today.
The Association of Certified Fraud Examiners is a global professional body that helps identify fraud and corruption that takes place. Anti-fraud professionals Dr. Udesri Karevasam, the president of the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, spoke about this.
So, the journalists, when it comes to the fraud, corruption, We are there for you to help. We will help you. Because most important thing is reporting the correct information. If the media is not there, these things will go unnoticed. Make the people aware of the frauds and corruption. The biggest problem in the public sector is very poor level of accountability. If you want to stop fraud, corruption, my suggestion is you need to stop giving tips even in this country.
Sri Lankan food journalist of the Associated Press, Eranga Jayawardena, was nominated as a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize, which is the most prestigious award in the world of journalism. Eranga and Mumbai-based photojournalist Rafiq Makuli were nominated in the breaking news category for their work as a team from the AP that covered the Aragalaya.
Rafiq Makbul and Eranga Jayawardena.
Sri Lankan photojournalist Eranga Jayawardena of the American news agency The Associated Press, known as the AP, made history in Sri Lanka's journalism field by being nominated for the Pulitzer Prize. He and his colleague, Indian photojournalist Rafiq Makbul, in the breaking news category. The winner in this category was also a team from the AP, which covered the siege of the city in Mariupol in the Ukraine war. Both photojournalists were nominated for the final round due to the manner in which they captured the public outrage and the people's struggle that arose with the economic crisis of Sri Lanka. Photojournalist Eranga Jayawardena captured the full range of human emotion, protesters pumping their fists in the air, shouting anti-government slogans, and also shielding themselves from tear gas and water cannons was seen. In both nominees' photos, crowds of Sri Lankans storming the office of the Prime Minister after the President fled the island, and others celebrating inside the President's official residence by jumping in the pool and using the gym equipment was seen as well. Eranga Jayawardena has worked in the capacity of a photojournalist and covered in the photography of nature, socio-political events and entertainment for over 20 years. He joined the Associated Press in 2002 and has been responsible for covering stories in Sri Lanka and the Maldives as well.
More news will come your way after this commercial break. Stay tuned.
මම නම් කැමති නෑ මේ arrange marriage වලට. මට ඕනේ හොඳට තෝරලා බලලා
සුපර් මාකට් ගියා වගේ හොඳට තෝරලා බලලා ගැලපෙනව කෙනා තෝරගන්න. ගැලපෙන එක ඔච්චරටම තෝරනවා නම් ගන්න වෙන්නේ ඉන්ෂුවර් මී එකෙන් ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් එකක් විතරයි.
ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් එකක් ගන්නවා නම් ඉන්ෂුවර් මී එකට කතා කරන්න. හොඳට තෝරලා කම්පෙයාර් කරලා අඩුම ගානට ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන්. ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් සුපර් මාකට් එක insureme.lk.
Welcome back. 10 United Nations Special Rapporteurs have written an official letter to President Ranil Wickremesinghe regarding the proposed anti-terrorism bill and rehabilitation bill in Sri Lanka.
The letter highlights their concerns regarding the potential impact of these bills on human rights and fundamental freedoms. The special rapporteurs have raised several issues concerning the recently proposed ATA published on the 17th of March 2023. The ATA represents the latest development of the Sri Lankan government's legislative amendments in response to the challenges posed by the Prevention of Terrorism Act of 1979, the PTA, and the Rehabilitation Bill passed by the Sri Lankan Parliament on the 18th of January 2023. The special rapporteurs have called on the Sri Lankan government to 1. Employ definitions of terrorism that comply with international norms. 2. Ensure precision and legal certainty, especially when this legislation may impact the rights of freedom of expression, opinion, association and religion or belief. The letter also calls for 3. Provisions and measures to prevent and prohibit arbitrary deprivation of liberty. 4. The enforcement of measures to prevent torture and enforced disappearance and adherence to non-derogable prohibitions. 5. Enable overarching due process and fair trial guarantees, including judicial oversight and access to legal counsel. It is important to note that the revisions to the draft rehabilitation bill following a decision of the Supreme Court would not adhere in certain regards to fundamental rights enshrined in the Constitution and would place many of its provisions in direct contradiction with the international human rights law obligations of the Sri Lankan government.
The Apostolic Nuncio to Sri Lanka, Archbishop the Most Reverend Brian Udegwe, visited the Mahabodhi Society of Ceylon today and paid his respects to its founder, the late Anagarika Dharmapala.
His Excellency Archbishop the Most Reverend Brian Udaigwe made a visit to the Mahabodhi Society of Ceylon today. The Apostolic Nuncio to Sri Lanka was received by the President of the Mahabodhi Society of Ceylon, Venerable Banagala Upatissathero. The Mahabodhi Society is a South Asian Buddhist society founded by the Sri Lankan Buddhist leader late Anagarika Dharmapala to protect and spread the message of Buddhism.
Today in 21st century we found that church is come to temple, temple is going to church. And we have a common understanding. You can see that because today the Vatican Archbishop Brian visited Mahabodhi headquarters and pay his respect to Anagarika Dharmapala.
Following the visit around the temple, the Archbishop engaged in a discussion with the head of the Mahabodhi Society as well.
Politicians, military, all that they do, we have to illuminate, show them the way. So it is really, I'm really happy to be in their country.
Meanwhile, the Main Department states that the low-pressure area over the southeast Bay of Bengal has developed into a depression and will gradually develop into a cyclonic storm.
Naval and multi-day fishing communities are advised not to venture into the sea areas until further notice. Fishing and naval communities are requested to be attentive to future forecasts issued by the Department of Meteorology in this regard. Showers or thunder showers will occur at times in the western, Sabargamuwa, central, northwestern and southern provinces. Fairly heavy showers above 75 millimeters are likely at some places in the western, Sabargamuwa and northwestern provinces and in the Gaul and Mathura districts. The general public is kindly reminded to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers.
The leopard is an animal of utmost importance that needs to be protected at all costs. However, this animal has recently become a threat to the farming communities of the hill country.
A little leopard cub, which had been separated from its mother, was discovered by a group of people in Katukale, Talavakale. The leopard cub was very fragile, so much that it could not walk properly yet. The group of people that came across the leopard cub then informed the Wildlife Department about it. The group waited for about 3 days for its mother to return, while ensuring that the leopard cub got the necessary nutrition. On the 28th of April at around 7 p.m, the little leopard's mother came looking for the cub. However, the mother leopard took to aggression and became hostile as she saw humans around her little cub and left. Dr. Akalanka Pinidenia and a team of the Wildlife Department eventually took responsibility for the little leopard cub. The little cub was taken to the Randanigala Veterinary Hospital to be taken care of and nurtured until it is of age to be released into the wild again.
A group of wildlife photographers and naturists were caught behaving in an unethical and dangerous manner during a visit to the Yala National Park on the 6th of May. The video footage of this incident went viral on social media.
The incident, which was filmed by another group of local tourists, shows them disturbing a mating pair of animals and driving them deep into the jungle. The group, which included naturalists and wildlife photographers, was seen climbing rocks with their expensive cameras and equipment, and before descending on the other side, where the mating pair of leopards could be heard, and were caught filming the incident. Their behavior has been widely criticized, with many calling for them to be penalized and banned from the park. Wildlife enthusiasts are supposed to protect the natural environment, but the actions of this group have been deemed disgusting by many. Fortunately, the incident was swiftly dealt with thanks to the prompt action of the wildlife trackers. They apprehended the culprits and prevented further damage from occurring. The incident has sparked a wider debate about the behavior of visitors to national parks and the need for greater education and enforcement of the rules. Many are calling for the trackers involved to be interdicted rather than merely transferred, to send a strong message about the importance of protecting the environment. As this incident shows, the actions of a few individuals can have a significant impact on the natural world. It is essential that we all take responsibility for our actions and work together to preserve and protect the environment for future generations.
Events that unfolded on the 9th of May last year were taken into discussion today in Parliament.
Parliament followed a 1 minute of silence to remember parliamentarian Amarakirti Athukorala of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, who was murdered in Nittambuwa last year on a day like today. The 1 minute silence was proposed by parliamentarian Nimal Lanza. Events that unfolded on the 9th of May last year were also taken up for discussion today in Parliament.
Let me recall what happened on the 9th of May. Are we going to create the same situation again?
Are you threatening us by recalling what happened on the 9th of May? If the people who fed biryani to those protesters are now threatening us, we as a government is ready to face that threat. We have an opposition which rejoices after murdering a parliamentarian.
The chief government whip is trying to control this house by being a bully.
They set ablaze the houses of Podujana Peramuna parliamentarians within 12 hours. Clearly, there was a plan. They were well organized and they clearly had the intention to do this. They came in front of the parliament and suggested to the public to set this ablaze. If they have done it that day, we would not have had any democracy in this country today. Thanks to the president for taking this over. Because of him, we were able to secure democracy in this country. We challenge you all now. Come and try to do it today the same way if you can. They had 100 odd houses in the list to set ablaze on the 10th of May. On top of this list, we had houses owned by members of the SJB and their leaders. They had plans to set ablaze to your houses as well. Their teams were ready. This is when we informed the Defence Secretary to order the army to control the situation and to order the army to open fire. We had 3 incidents where the army had to open fire. One in Rathgama, the other in Angoda, and the last one in Pitakote. If we didn't do that, I'm sure they must have set ablaze to your houses as well.
Even your brother was arrested on that day. He was also part of the Aragalaya. This is why you are trying to justify it. It is evident now that you were all behind this.
We saw some warlock following a ritual at the golf face green to chase away President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. That warlock was struck by lightning and he died. Then they had a library there at the golf face. They even had a librarian to this library. He committed suicide at the end. People who celebrated Vesak last year using black robes are in the mental asylum today. They are in the 2B ward. One of the main activists of the Aragalaya met with a train accident in Dehiwala and he died. And another activist drowned. Then the person who posted obituary notice to Mahinda Rajapaksa had to face a sudden death in his young age. The person who used the presidential flag as a bed sheet met with an accident recently and they had to amputate his leg to save him. The best part about this was that none of the people, including the driver who travelled with him in the three-wheeler, was hurt from this accident. One suspect who is charged with the murder of parliamentarian Athukorala died in the prison. Many artists who sang there have fallen sick today. The perpetrator, who is alleged with the recent murder of a 16-year-old girl in Karuthara, was the main organizer of the Aragalaya for the Karuthara district. We have arrested more than 4,000 suspects concerning the violent activities that took place on the 9th of May. I take this opportunity to thank President Ranil Wickremesinghe for saving this country from an anarchy. Our Justice Minister revealed certain details on the events that unfolded on the 9th of May last year. He told that there was a list of houses belonging to MPs of the Samgi Jana Balawegaya which were to be set ablaze on the 10th of May. I'm sure the minister has some intelligence reports to back his claims. Members of the ruling faction pointed the finger at the JVP for committing these violent acts. If that's true, then it must be the same members of the JVP that plan to set ablaze to the houses of the SJB parliamentarians. Then why is the president not revealing this to the public? Is there a deal between the red and green elephants? In conclusion, I welcome all of you all to learn a lesson from this Aragalaya. There is no point of threatening or bullying the people who got involved with the Aragalaya. Try to understand the reality and try to create a nation that can live debt-free.
If you are blaming the Aragalaya, then you should blame Ranil Wickremesinghe as well. He also supported the Aragalaya. When he was appointed as the Prime Minister, he appointed Ruwan Wijewardena to support the Aragalaya.
Meanwhile, a group of politicians representing the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna visited the Sinigama Devol Mahadewalaya to engage in a plea to God. The group demands that the law be implemented in connection with the incidents of damage to their homes and properties on the 9th of May last year.
We went to meet Mahinda. Mahinda should be worshipped. No one was able to put an end to the war that lasted more than 30 years. Mahinda Rajapaksha's photos should be framed and hung at our homes and worshipped with flowers. But today, instead of flowers, they are thrown rocks at.
Meanwhile, when some civil activists tried to stage a silent protest opposite the Golface Green this morning, they were obstructed by the police. Since this morning, special police security has been deployed around the Golface Green. However, at around 9 a.m, several civil activists arrived at the location in order to remember the activists of the Aragalaya. The police informed that no protests or celebrations are allowed at that location. Then the group was removed from Golface Green. Although this group tried to protest again near the Fort Railway Station, their attempts were unsuccessful. Later, the group moved towards the Colombo Public Library and expressed their views to the media.
Don't play games like this every day. There is such a thing as law and justice in this country. We are not afraid. There has been a police crackdown. It is not good to allow this.
Then the group and several others came to the United Nations office in Colombo and handed over a memorandum.
What kind of freedom is there in this country? What freedom do we have if we can't be at the Golface? We have a big problem about the security of our country, about freedom, about our happiness. So we request the governing authority to allow us to express our dissent. It is because there is no room for such expression that we come to places like this.
Meanwhile, social activist Noor was arrested by the police in Maligawatha today. Mrs. Noor was arrested while she was engaged in a protest march from Damatagoda to Peta. Noor was then taken to the Maligawatha police station.
According to the law, there is no charge. But in the case of the Aragalaya, we saw that they were arrested and kept in custody without any charges.
Meanwhile, police personnel and riot police were deployed in the vicinity of the Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka in Pitipana, Homagama, based on suspicions that a protest would take place. However, no such protest took place and the police had left after some time.
The student union of the Buddhist and Pali University expressed its views at a press conference held today.
Even as of now, while this press conference is going on, around 100 to 200 police officers have been deployed along with jeeps and trucks as well. Today was the last day for students of the university to take admission. However, without letting us carry this out in peace and allowing police to operate here gives us the impression that this is no longer the Buddhist and Pali University, let alone a Buddhist university.
Meanwhile, activists of the People's Struggle participated in a joint press conference in Colombo today.
No one can destroy the Aragalaya because the Aragalaya was created by the citizens. No one can end it. We know that this corrupt, anti-democratic government, which has brought anti-terror laws, brought elaborate tricks, used fear and state terrorism, and has brought people to the streets. And now they can't even express their hunger. This government is anti-people and anti-democratic. The struggle arises from within the hearts of the people. Therefore, if Ranil Wickremesinghe or Rajapakshas are thinking of suppressing this struggle by sending the police and taking restraining orders, bringing repressive bills and bringing bills like the Anti-Terrorism Act and bringing bills like the Bureau of Rehabilitation Act to suppress these people, it cannot be suppressed in that way. Why? Because the struggle begins in the hearts of the people. After this incident, we saw the government saying different things related to these incidents. Houses are said to have been burnt down and MPs have been killed. They are saying that thugs were used against the government. We are asking the government who created the environment to bring the country to that state. On the 9th, before the afternoon, people were engaged in the Aragalaya as per usual in a very peaceful manner. If so, the chaos on the 9th of May was created by none other than the former government, and the people responded against it.
එහෙමනම් මේයි 9 වෙනිදා දවල්වරුව නිර්මාණය කරේ වෙන කවුරුත් නෙමෙයි එවකට හිටපු ආණ්ඩුව ඒකට දාලව ජනතාව රට පුරා උත්තර දුන්නා
මේ බේරේ වැවේ නාවලා ඒ සත්කාරය කරපු මේ
The group that was washed away at the Beira Lake have been given power once again through Ranil Wickremesinghe. It is the gang, including Ranil Wickremesinghe, who is holding political power today and has come to the fore with some of their own agendas. Ranil Wickremesinghe is the one who gave power to the Rajapakshas again.
News first with the people.
The main suspect linked to the death of a schoolgirl opposite a lodging in Kaluthara was arrested in Hikkaduwa this morning. The suspect is currently being interrogated and police say that information regarding the incident has been revealed.
The suspect was arrested in Hikkaduwa 2 days after the incident. Multiple police authorities are investigating the suspect who had taken a 16-year-old girl to a hotel in Kaluthara.
This person is confirmed to be 29 years of age. It has now been revealed that he is a married individual residing in Kaluthara. Investigations have revealed that the suspect was involved in the acquisition of vehicles from those who lease vehicles. Investigations are underway to verify if the suspect has connections with organized criminals or drug trafficking rings as well. It is observed that the suspect was in possession of a certain amount of money as well. Investigations are also underway to determine the origins of his finances and his occupation as well. So far it has not been confirmed whether it was death by suicide or murder, but the police investigators have conducted this investigation on the presumption that this is a homicide. It will be done under that presumption as the investigation continues as well until it is confirmed otherwise.
According to the police, the suspect in custody revealed that the other individual who had arrived at the hotel was his friend. It was revealed that the same individual introduced the 16-year-old victim who had been a friend of the other girl to the suspect. Accordingly, it was mentioned that on the day of the crime, the two men had picked up the two girls from Nagoda in a motor vehicle and had arrived at the hotel. The associate of the suspect and the young girl who had arrived with him left earlier, while the suspect, who was arrested today, had remained in the room with the 16-year-old victim. The suspect further confessed that following a phone call that the victim had received, she had become agitated and jumped from the window. Last Saturday, the body of the deceased victim was discovered behind the hotel in Khaltara. The other man and woman who travelled to the lodging with the deceased girl and the driver of the vehicle they travelled were produced before the magistrate's court and were arrested until the 15th of May. Meanwhile, the final rites of the 16-year-old victim were carried out at the Khaltara Atavila Public Cemetery this evening.
The Speaker informed Parliament on Tuesday that Sri Lanka Supreme Court cleared the way for Parliament to decriminalise same-sex relationships through a simple majority in the House.
A 3-member bench ruled in an exhaustive 43-page judgment that the bill was consistent with the Constitution and would not require a 2/3 majority in the House or a national referendum. The bench comprised Chief Justice Jayantha Jayasuriya and Justices Vijit Malalgoda and Arjun Obesekara. Initially, a private member's bill to amend the penal code had been presented by MP Premanath Dolavatta. 3 petitioners challenged the bill and sought a determination from the Supreme Court that the bill needed to be passed by a 2/3 majority in Parliament and a referendum, alleging that it was inconsistent with the Constitution. 14 intervening petitions in support of the bill were then filed by 30 other citizens and 2 civil society organizations.
But what the Supreme Court says that decriminalizing and repealing it actually furthers the right to equality and equal protection of the law that is enshrined in our Constitution. And what the determination says, that it does not find that any provisions of the bill are in violation of the Constitution. What you're doing is you're not criminalizing the act, because you criminalize an act when it causes harm. But how does private same-sex activities harm society? And what it says is that we must base these decisions on constitutional morality and not what you or I might find offensive or what might displease us.
The court, through its determination, agreed and accepted that actually decriminalization and repealing of these offensive laws would lead to LGBT people actually being able to enjoy their lives as equal citizens of this country. The Supreme Court took the position that decriminalization would lead to enhancing the dignity of individuals and, in fact, enhancing the right to equality for everyone.
Meanwhile, according to foreign media, an online meeting of Sri Lanka's creditor nations was held today with all major creditor governments participating, including China, which attended as an observer.
In the presence of China, offered hope that Beijing would become more engaged in their efforts to resolve Sri Lanka's bankruptcy issues and also of other nations that are suffering from financial challenges. The meeting was initiated by Japan, India and France, which came with a common platform by which all of Sri Lanka's creditors would participate in discussions instead of holding separate talks. Sri Lanka owes $7.1 billion to bilateral creditors, with $3 billion owed to China, $1.6 billion to India, $2.4 billion to the Paris Club of Creditor Nations. Sri Lanka's government is also currently attempting to renegotiate over $12 billion debt to private creditors overseas in the form of Eurobonds and a further $2.7 billion in commercial loans. This is apart from ongoing attempts by the government of Sri Lanka to restructure over $13 billion in domestic debt.
India has extended a $1 billion credit line for Sri Lanka by 1 year. The credit facility was issued for the importing of essential food items, fuel and medicines. Accordingly, the $1 billion credit line was extended until 2024 March. The credit line, part of about $4 billion in emergency assistance extended by India during the peak of Sri Lanka's financial crisis early last year, was scheduled to end in March. Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan has been arrested during a court appearance in Islamabad facing corruption allegations.
Pakistan's Interior Minister said that Khan was arrested due to his involvement in a case involving the embezzlement of 190 million British pounds, which was caught in the United Kingdom. In a Twitter post, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif accused Khan for assailing the military over a shooting attack that had wounded the former Prime Minister. Several unrest have aroused following the news of Khan's arrest, as police have used tear gas and water cannon to quell protests that erupted across several cities. In Karachi, police used tear gas to disperse protesters who had gathered on the main road running through the country's largest city. According to foreign media, in the eastern city of Lahore, where Khan resides, police used water cannon.
And with that, wrap up news for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. Do take care and good night.